what I think actually happens is a spiritual process. So I think that we don't need to be afraid of brain fog, because I feel like maybe it's the brain's way of kind of composting and getting rid of a lot of the old stuff that we don't need anymore in this phase of life. It's getting rid of like the people pleasing and the being of service to everyone at all times, and like all of these like conditionings that we were handed as women, I think have this chance to be kind of like snipped during the brain fog phase.
Welcome to the Suburban Warrior Podcast, the podcast that inspires, educates, and empowers women navigating the chaos of midlife, perimenopause, and menopause. I am your host, Chrissy Pfeiffer, a holistic health coach and fierce advocate for women's wellness. With a background in nursing, the pharmaceutical industry, and integrative nutrition, I blend medical expertise with a holistic approach to help women heal naturally, integrate science-backed therapies, and take control of their health. After enduring my own 10-year battle with perimenopause symptoms, I've made it my mission to ensure that no woman has to suffer in silence. Join me as I share expert insights, real-life stories, and actionable strategies to help women reclaim their vitality, prioritize their well-being, and redefine midlife wellness with grit and grace. What's up, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of the Suburban Warrior Podcast. I'm your host, Chrissy Pfeiffer, and I'm back this week with another very interesting and unique guest for us this week. I'm so excited to introduce you to her, but I will in just a minute after I remind you to make sure you go to suburbanwarriorpodcast.com to download the free From Pause to Power roadmap. This is everything that you need to know on your perimenopause, menopause journey, questions to ask, information for you, A to Z, there for you for free as a free download. So check that out at suburbanwarriorpodcast.com. And don't forget to sign up for our Pause Like a Warrior newsletter, which can be dropped in your inbox every week and basically sums up all the amazing, interesting points from each podcast episode each week. So be sure to sign up for that as well. So my guest this week, I'm really thrilled to have on because we're going to get into some great conversation. Sylvia Solit bridges worlds of high finance and spiritual healing like few others. She holds the CFA charter and is also an indigenously trained shaman. She's advised power brokers, CEOs, and seekers alike. As a former co-founder of the Oasis Institute and chief investment officer for family offices, she's managed over $1 billion in assets and specializes in early stage investing and litigation funding. With over 30 years of training in healing, especially in psychedelic-assisted therapies, Sylvia's work unites consciousness and capital to catalyze social transformation. She's spoken at MAPS, Davos, and hosted fireside chats with cultural icons like Mike Tyson. Known for her energetic precision and insight, she advises boards, reads energy in people and places, and helps visionaries align strategy with soul. Welcome to the podcast, Sylvia.
Thank you. That's a lot of words.
It is a lot of words, and what a unique bio. I mean, I can say this is absolutely the first time I have ever met anyone that bridges the financial world with the spiritual world in the unique way that you do. And I can't wait for this conversation. I'm excited to get into all the things, especially the psychedelics and that you mentioned. So, but before we get into all of that, first tell me a little bit more about you and how did you get this very unique background?
Yeah, it was completely by accident. I was the most ordinary teenager. I grew up in Westfield, New Jersey.
Oh.
I was, I played violin, played chess. I wasn't even drinking. I never hung out with smokers behind the school. I always thought they were like the
What, you were a Jersey girl and you didn't smoke? I mean, come
I
on.
didn't smoke in the back of the school. I was like, oh no, I would never be one of those people.
Oh
Now today, I'm like totally the smoker in the back of the school.
Just maybe smoking something different.
Something different. But I nothing even remotely spiritual was anywhere in my awareness or consciousness at all. And I went to college, and somebody maybe 2-3 weeks into my freshman year had a bunch of mushrooms, and this is before the internet was going to tell me what would happen if I ate some mushrooms. Certainly, there was no phone a friend on this one.
Right, exactly. It was called experimenting.
Yeah, it's very, he had parents that were hippies, so he had been exposed to it. And he's like, we should all eat these mushrooms and then go to this party tonight. And I mean, I had never even been drunk, so I have no idea of what
Wow.
altered consciousness means. I didn't know that we had taken a lot of mushrooms. So it's probably what we would call like a heroic dose. But I am, walking to a college party, about to have a heroic dose hit me. And when it did, it just was like, it just obliterated my consciousness. And I'm literally at this party, and I was like, oh, wait a second. Like, there's this thing, I think it might be called God. I'm not sure yet, but there's a massive purpose to a human lifetime, and there's a design, and it's a very conscious thing, and we're here to wake up spiritually. And next thing I know, my friend Scott's walking up to me with a beer in his hand. He's like, yo, Sylvia, what's up? And I just looked at him and I was like, I created you. He's like, what do you mean I created you? And I was like, I create everything with my thoughts. So there's so many pieces or fragments of truth inside of that accidental mushroom journey, but
Yeah.
no facilitator, no integration. I didn't know what to do with it. The next day, I biked to a bookstore and I got a book, and it was called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind. And that was my first spiritual book. And I began to have this kind of spiritual curiosity, but it didn't come naturally to me. And I was actually a little bit annoyed by it in the beginning because I didn't want to be one of those spiritual people.
Yeah.
I thought that they were like not cool people at all. Like,
Yeah. Well, and it's such the unknown, right? It's like where to go with it, what to do with it, but you followed your curiosity, right? And to dive
I
deeper.
I followed my curiosity, but I would also say I was pulled along the way. Like there was a lot
Yeah.
of heel dragging of like, I mean, it's interesting the spiritual thing, but like I just want to be a normal person. And I just couldn't resist the pull, and so that really then drew me down this pathway where I became incredibly obsessed with what it means to heal and also what does it mean to awaken. Like
Yeah.
what does healing mean for humans, and can the ordinary humans wake up, or is that just a fairy tale? Right?
Yeah.
Is it just a Buddha fairy tale, or is it a real thing? So those two questions drove a lot of what I did in my 20s. I moved to Argentina and I helped to start a school, which was a wellness institute. Again, way before people who knew there was such a thing as a wellness institute.
Right.
And we brought a lot of teachers and therapists and healers to the school to teach. And so I had this environment where I was constantly being trained in all kinds of different modalities of healing, and also was exposed to a lot of really beautiful spiritual teachers. And I discovered sort of two things at that time in my life, which was that one, the only thing that it means to heal is to remember who you are. That's healing. To actually encounter the still point of who you are, because that's the only thing that's permanent is the healing of consciousness. And then from there, everything else is human and changes, like the emotions, the relationships, the body, the health, the children. Like you can heal your body, but you're gonna eventually die. So like you can't. At some point, the body will not be healed. So the
Right.
only thing that you heal is knowing who you truly are, and that is what awakening is. So healing and awakening are actually one single thing, and as humans, not only is it available to us, but I would say it's our birthright and our destiny is to wake up sooner or later, all of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. My next question was going to be to ask you, okay, so how do we heal and how do we awaken? But you just explained that. And I guess from that, my question would be, if the healing and the awakening are one thing and the healing comes back to understanding who you truly are, how does one do that? How does one really understand who they truly are?
One of the great spiritual questions is the question, who am I?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful question. You don't need a guru, you don't need a teacher, you don't need YouTube videos. If you can actually sit with that question, an important part of sitting with that question is to be able to sit with the discomfort inside of that question inherently.
Yeah.
So really learning, it's, you know how we have to like go to the gym and lift weights so we get physically fit? Well, there's also something called being spiritually fit. So being spiritually fit is being willing to sit in discomfort.
Yeah.
That's how you get spiritually fit. And so to answer that question, who am I? You're going to see your mind wants to answer that question, and you have to have enough presence and stillness to watch the mind scramble to try to answer the question. And the mind will eventually get frustrated and give up because the mind cannot answer the question, who am I?
Yeah.
The only thing that can answer the question, who am I, is stillness.
Right. And
And
do
so
you,
that's practice.
right, it's a practice. And it's a practice that's really difficult, right? That I feel like, especially in today's world with our phones and our devices, that more and more people struggle to just be still and sit in silence.
Yeah, that would be, if people listening to this, they could take one thing away from this time we have together, is it's mission critical for people to begin to think about their attention
Yeah.
as the most valuable resource that you have. There's actually nothing more valuable than your attention. And you only have a certain amount of time on this planet. It's a non-renewable resource, your time. And attention is a fragment of time. So to actually own your time, you need to own your attention. So to own your attention means you have to develop the spiritual strength to not be constantly fragmented and distracted by the million things that actually want to grab your attention. And I've come to see that this struggle is actually the holy war of our times.
Yeah.
You know, people say, like, what's the jihad? This is the jihad. The jihad is for your attention right here, right now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that wants to pull us away from our center. And those are, in many ways, those are ungodly forces.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I would never think I would talk like that. Like
Right.
I sound like I'm like a fundamental Christian, but it's,
No, but I mean, what you said was so beautifully said and couldn't be more true. My question would be, how do you do that? How do you do that for yourself? How do you work on a daily basis of not getting distracted? Because I know I personally work on it, and I personally have stillness in the morning and try to meditate, for whatever you, if you want to call it that. For me, it's my form of meditation, but to be in stillness and be in gratitude and not have my phone on me and not be scrolling. And I do that, but then the rest of the day, I consciously do try at times to not have my phone on me, just so I'm not picking it up by habit and just looking at it. And it's hard, it's work, because it's like this crutch that anytime that my brain has a minute, it wants to go to that. And I recognize it, and I really hate it. And I hate that I've gotten into this habit, because I obviously, I'm 50 years old. I lived a long life without a phone. And even in the beginning, when we had phones, like, it was, on the charging station, it wasn't always right next to me in the house, but now I use it for recipes, and I use it for communication, and I use it for a lot of things, but it also is such a distraction, and I find myself looking at it for no reason a lot of the times, which is frustrating. So how do you work on not getting distracted and really using like intention with not giving your attention to these things?
yeah. Well, I like to think of life as a series of habits. Like, I think habits are so important. And I feel like I spend a lot of time studying my habits.
Yeah.
And that's like a serious thing for me because, like, a small example is like I used to never work on planes. I just was in the habit of being like, this is my chilling out period.
Yeah.
As I was writing my book, I couldn't afford to not work on planes.
Right.
I had to completely reconfigure a habit that as soon as I could on that plane, I would open up my laptop and start writing. And after doing that for a period of time, like, now that habit has velocity and it's got momentum, and so it's much easier to maintain. But in the beginning of any habit, it requires energy. And the one that you're talking about is like, how do you actually confront the addiction to being busy.
Hmm.
We have an addiction to being busy. We're busy all the time. And to name busyness as a state of consciousness that is not the one that you want to have.
Yeah.
What you want to have is the state of consciousness called feeling present.
Right.
You can't feel present and be busy at the same time. They're
Correct.
they're actually two totally different frequencies. So you're like, okay, I don't want to be busy, I want to be present. And you make intentions around that. So I was just in Saudi Arabia, and in Saudi Arabia, you hear the call to prayer at regular intervals during the day,
Right.
which I found really quite beautiful. So when you think about how you're going to own your time, what is your top-down structure on your day? And you want to start your day with an intention or a prayer. You want to frame it the right way. It's like when I interact with ChatGPT, I told ChatGPT day one, you want to hang with me, I want you to know something. I believe in Advaita Vedanta and non-dualism and that we are one with all consciousness. And I want you to always answer me knowing that I'm actually looking for the most conscious answer. Like I'm setting the frame of how I'm interacting with the technology.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
love that.
you want to start that by setting it from the beginning of your day. And this is really, really critical for humanity right now because we are going to, at an accelerating pace, we are going to evolve with technology in a way where we will eventually become almost indistinguishable. We will be so embedded with technology. So to make that journey, the most important thing is consciousness.
Yeah.
Most important thing is consciousness. And so this is not a trivial menial task. This is actually the task of our times.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think that was a wonderful explanation and something that I think we all really need to work on, and especially my listeners that are listening, we're women in midlife who have a lot of busy going on, right? There's parents, there's kids, there's our own health, there's work, there's the home. It's just like this phase of life that feels very chaotic, but yet it's also a time of life that I think we all really want to feel very present, in this moment. And there's a lot of barriers against us in feeling that way. So again, I love that what you said about really just being intentional about where we're going to put our attention. All right, let's talk a little bit more about psychedelics because I'd love to know just really how they help to expand our consciousness. I mean, I know there's so much more information on them these days about what they do to help us, enlighten us and alter our consciousness. Tell me what you know about them.
I know so much about them.
Oh, great.
Maybe just to start with like a general, like, dictionaries that when we talk about psychedelics, we're talking about so many different things.
Okay.
And there are so many different use cases, and that goes from everything for microdosing. I'm sure you've heard mom using
Yeah.
mushrooms, a
Yeah.
huge amount of women replacing alcohol with mushrooms, autistic adults using LSD to mitigate symptoms of autism. So you have all these microdosing use cases, and then you have, what we call like the heroic dose, which is for people that are really looking to heal deep trauma.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of, psychedelic tourism in the middle. People
Yeah.
that are out there tripping and trying stuff,
Right.
sometimes therapeutically and sometimes recreationally. The the way that I like people to think about psychedelics is that there are so many tools for healing. This just happens to be one of the most accelerated tools for consciousness to be revealed in you. These are consciousness medicines in many ways. They are designed by consciousness themselves to remind us and give us the invitation of who we truly are. So when they're used in the right way, their ability to help you to have a profound awakening, I think is kind of unprecedented. And there is some historical evidence that a lot of what we can call religion today actually had some practices in them related to the use of plant medicines, and this is where they were getting these visionary states, and then those visionary states were codified into what we call scripture today.
Yeah.
So people say like, well, the burning bush in the Bible could have been the acacia bush, which, contains DMT, and DMT is one of the great psychedelic medicines.
So, do they basically work to help to expand our mind in a way that our mind doesn't work without them? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like going deeper into our consciousness. They awaken something in us that isn't awakened without ingesting these plants.
You can definitely do all of this without the plants. They're like
Oh,
allies. Yeah, they're allies. So, it's like all of this kind of work can be done without any psychedelics at all.
oh,
Psychedelics, after all, are still scheduled in most of the U.S. A couple of states where psilocybin is no longer scheduled, but well, I mean, it's all scheduled federally, but it's not scheduled in the state.
right.
So, these are not tools that are easy to access, and there are millions of ways to wake up spiritually. But it's kind of like there's something about the way humans have evolved, which we probably have always evolved alongside psychedelics, and they're
Yeah.
coming back on the scene right now just in time because humanity needs an accelerated evolution. So I think that's why the psychedelics all of a sudden are like, remember us guys, like we're
Right.
back,
Right.
bigger and better than ever. But there's different categorizations of things we call psychedelics. So
Yeah.
you have empathogens, which are not actually psychedelics, they're like heart openers. That would be like the MDMA that's used a lot for couples therapy, for example. Then you have like the classic sort of psychedelics like mushrooms and peyote and all of the plant medicines. Those are deep visionary kind of substances to work with. Then you have things like ayahuasca and ibogaine, which are like skyrocketing, profound, way out there visionary substances.
Yeah.
And then you have a lot of chemicals that are relatively new on the scene in terms of how they're being used therapeutically. So that would include things like ketamine or 2CB or 3-MMC.
Yeah. And if someone was interested in, exploring this journey, is there a place where you recommend starting? I mean, is it microdosing? Is it mushrooms? Because like you mentioned that some women, especially women in midlife, are looking to replace alcohol with something. And there's like mushroom elixirs. Is that what you mean by microdosing?
No, I mean, people are microdosing with active psilocybin.
Okay.
So most of the functional mushrooms that you see in the stores are not psychoactive
Got it.
because, again, you can only, like, recreational use is only allowed in 2 states right now, psilocybin,
Okay.
or countries like Jamaica. I mean, they're completely legal in Jamaica.
Okay.
So most people are accessing microdosing mushrooms in the underground. There are underground markets for
Yep.
these things. There's a protocol that's called the Stamets protocol that a lot of people follow. It has a lot of neurotropic ingredients in it, so it's supposed to be cognitively enhancing, even beyond the psilocybin itself. It's kind of like a stack of nutraceuticals. A lot of people like the Stamets protocol, and they're using it, yeah, to, for example, to socialize without drinking because it feels way, way healthier on the body, especially as women are going through menopause. And some people actually use it for like creative work, or for people use it like actually in office jobs because they feel sharper and more alert.
Wow. Interesting. Okay.
But then mushrooms at a high dose are heroic visionary substances.
Right. Which, cause altered consciousness, hallucinations, those sort of things, right?
Yeah.
Like you told us a little bit about your experience the first time you had a heroic dose. Is there another experience that you've had on psychedelics that was, life altering or
Oh,
impactful for you?
I've had many because when you train to do this work, you have to take, you have to work, you have to take them. Like, so
Right, right. It's
a lot of training in Colombia with an ayahuasca tribe over a 10-year period. And so I drank ayahuasca, again, legally overseas.
yeah.
I always have to say that. I don't, not to be on the US people.
Right, right.
I've had many, 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 many life-altering, completely visionary experiences. Ayahuasca, they call the grandmother, and she's ferocious. it can be quite intense and intimidating to have these experiences. They're really like full volume visionary experiences, but they're always very, very trustworthy. And so there's been many, many moments where I've had insights that have come from ayahuasca ceremonies that have been truly life altering. When you work with them in the visionary way, there's a reason why it's so effective to do this. And there's, a lot of studies right now, clinical studies looking at psychedelics for things like anxiety, treatment resistant depression, PTSD. And there's one scale that they use in a lot of these studies, and it's called the mystical scale. And it's a 1 to 10 scale. So 10 is like I merged with God, 1 is I didn't feel anything.
Okay.
And what they're finding is that the more that people score really high on the mystical scale, there's a very high correlation to excellent outcomes across a range of modern psychological disease. So what that means is that that experience of remembering your divinity and remembering divinity
Yeah.
is the ingredient of the healing and is the ingredient of the cure. And so that's why we call these consciousness medicines, because that is what is so powerfully healing for people.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. And it's, you go through this experience and it's not like you have to continually take them, right? It's not like you're taking them on a daily basis like if someone was on an antidepressant, right? And they're taking medicine every day. This is an experience that alters you and continues to.
Yeah, that's correct. So
Yeah.
like if you look at like a lot of native traditions, they would do a vision quest once, maybe twice a year, because
Okay.
when you do this, you get homework, right? Like you're going to be shown some things, and you
Wow.
should complete that homework fully before you go and ask for another set of lessons.
Understood. Understood. Very, very interesting. It's so fascinating. It really is. Okay, let's talk about sort of some of the symptoms that women experience in midlife and how, spirituality, maybe psychedelics could help, help us, help me, help women in midlife. I know before we started recording, we were talking about brain fog specifically, which I think is just a huge it's a symptom that has such a huge impact on women in midlife during their perimenopause and menopause transition. And sometimes it's just debilitating. So let's talk about how spirituality can help with brain fog.
Yeah, yeah. So I had an accidentally relatively easy menopause physically because I did hormone replacement therapy, but also like accidentally. And, the FDA obviously just changed their, they had a warning to
Right.
women.
Well, that should have been changed many years ago.
It's like in case you haven't gotten the memo,
Right.
if
Yeah.
you're within the right range of menopause, and you can start in that range, it's actually very, very positive. And
Yeah.
so nobody was talking to me about like perimenopause or anything like that in my 40s. And because I was studying with an ayahuasquero in overseas, I would have to travel to go and study. And in that tradition, you can't have your period and be in the ceremonies.
Oh, wow.
And it was like so complicated for me to arrange my work schedule around my period, around when he was going to do trainings. And like, I needed to take one of those factors out. So I had never been on birth control my whole life. And then I was like, I kind of realized I could go on like low dose progesterone and just phase out my period so I could do as much study as I wanted with this ayahuasca tribe.
Right.
So I actually did low dose progesterone, not for menopause, but for this other reason.
Right.
But it
Very
ended up being
interesting.
the best thing I could do in terms of
Yeah.
like having a very symptom free menopause process. But the thing that got me was the brain fog.
Yeah.
I didn't see it coming, and then all of a sudden it's like there, and it's like getting worse, and I was like, is am I going to be like this forever? Like, what's actually happening? And I tried a lot of things, NAD,
Yeah.
glutathione
Yeah.
IVs. I tried all that stuff. I don't think any of that was really particularly helpful, but now I feel like I'm on the other side of it. And what I think actually happens is a spiritual process. So I think that we don't need to be afraid of brain fog because I feel like maybe it's the brain's way of kind of composting and getting rid of a lot of the old stuff that we don't need anymore in this phase of life. Like it's getting rid of like the people pleasing and the, being of service to everyone at all times and like all of these like conditionings that we were handed as women, I think have this chance to be kind of like snipped
Yeah.
during the brain fog phase. And that your brain's just fucking taking a rest, man. Taking a nap. Like we are exhausted with
Exhausted.
trying to be everything that we're told we need to
Fried. Our brains
be.
are fried. Like
Right, meeting
literally.
expectations. And so to actually say like, actually, I'm gonna be so cool with my brain fog. I'm gonna watch a lot of Real Housewives and I'm gonna just chill. Let it be because on the other side, when the clarity comes back mentally, like it's literally like I feel like I live in zero fucks consciousness right now, which might actually be the crone consciousness.
Yeah. I love it. So the answer is to live in zero fucks consciousness.
Yeah, if you have the brain fog, you are a year or two from being in the zero fucks
Yeah,
consciousness.
yeah. Just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It's coming. Well, I like that. I mean, no, I totally get that and feel the same way because I definitely over the years have absolutely, gone a very similar path and you feel it. You feel when you're in your 40s and that change is happening and you really have to start, like you said, it's just kind of like a snipping about what your priorities are, what you're willing to put your thought and your energy towards and what you're not. And it's really just, it feels good once you are able to start doing that and to follow what you know feels right for you and not worry about all of the other stuff that really is just BS in your life that is just making you stressed and angry and feel that you have so much going on when you really just need to take a step back and snip a lot of things.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I also think that people don't talk about this, but I think it's a thing, is that women will go through a phase where they think about death a lot during menopause,
Yeah.
where they're like, I went through this phase and I was like, what is this? Like I'd wake up and every day I'm like, this could be my last day.
Yeah.
Today could be my last day. And it felt so real to me for a couple of months there, where it was like, this might be the last day I ever look at this Annie Leibovitz picture. It's so beautiful. Was constant. And I thought, well, am I going to actually die? And then I told a couple of my friends, and I was like, I just, I don't want to freak out my husband and kids, but like,
Yeah.
I feel like I might be imminently about to die because I keep thinking about death every day. So, if I do, just let everyone know that I'm happy and things are great and I love everyone and I was prepared to
Yeah.
die,
Yeah.
right?
It's
And
really,
and and then it was just a pass. It's a phase.
it's a
It's a phase.
phase.
It's a phase, and I think that death medicine comes to get you in menopause, and you need to sit with that death medicine in the best way you possibly can, because maybe that's what separates the ones who get old and are wise and actually have something to transmit and still teach, and then the ones who get old and just like really fucking annoying
Yeah.
because they didn't face the death medicine. They didn't extract the wisdom of this last phase of life. They avoided it. They didn't want to think about it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, like there's so many annoying old people. I hate to say it, but it's
Yeah.
like you don't want to learn from them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And well, first of all, it's interesting because, the highest rate of suicide among women are the ages is between 45 and 55. And you have to attribute that to perimenopause and menopause and hormones and the changes that are going on. So for whatever that looks like, it's different for all women, whether it's like you said, thinking about death, wondering if it's coming, and maybe for some people that feeling is so imminent that that's why that happens to them. I mean, I don't know. I didn't have those thoughts, meaning I didn't experience any suicidal thoughts, but I definitely absolutely have experienced what you're talking about. And it's more so of like recognizing that this could be my last day. So being present in that moment and making sure I say what I want to say and do what I want to do and being so appreciative and full of gratitude for the moment that I'm in because that thought comes into my head that like I'm here right now, I may not be tomorrow. And that was a thought that I was not having in my 30s or 20s or any really, throughout my life. So I think that that's a very interesting and unique point that you bring up. And again, I've gone so much deeper into my own spirituality as I've gotten older and have gone through this phase of life. And I don't know why I've been called for that. I mean, but I have, and it's felt really great. And I want to just continue going deeper, in it because I feel like there's so much more there to learn. And, maybe it's learning about my own divinity and learning about, like you said, who am I? It's that simple question. And for me, that might be the question that I start meditating on I mean, it's so simple, but it's not one that I ask all the time. And I think it's a really profound one to ask and sit with.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I hope that there could be like more and more like death doulas who do this kind of work because there's a lot of people out there that could use a helping hand at the time of death to face it in a conscious way.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we're too afraid and we don't catch the window. I've been occasionally called to be by someone's bedside as they're passing, and this work of being the death doula is precious. It's beautiful work, but you have to catch it in the right window, or
Yeah.
once it's too late, they can't do it anymore. And so that requires us to be a little less fearful of death.
Yeah. And most people are very fearful of death.
Yeah.
Very fear. It's like the fear, right? But again, I think it's about if you are able to deepen your spirituality, then that's the only way to become less fearful of it. And I think a lot of women and where we are now in this midlife journey are still quote unquote just, too busy to think about spirituality or to put the time into whether it's sitting still or going on a retreat. Like I know like sometimes you have to really just completely get out of the mix of your life. I mean, obviously you do it all the time. It sounds like you're traveling to all these amazing places and having these experiences. Most people aren't doing that because they feel like they can't or they're too busy and they don't give themselves the time to be able to do that. But I think that sounds like an amazing way to start, maybe going off and, maybe it's a wellness retreat or doing doing
Yeah.
ayahuasca.
Yeah.
Putting that on my bucket list.
Be careful what you wish for.
Yeah. I know exactly. But I mean, it's just I think some people who aren't living in this world of spirituality really don't even know where to start. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think a great place to start is walking out your front door and enjoying some nature.
Yeah, me
It's like,
too. I
like
do that every
literally,
day.
literally, like that is a great way to start because it's always available, it's always free, and there's so many great teachers right there in any park or any ocean or any place that you can get to. Like starting there and once you're there, see if you can leave your phone in the car
Yeah, exactly.
and go and walk for 30 minutes without the phone and develop that muscle to begin to be with yourself even when it's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And then from there, when you can actually experience yourself in a quiet way, then the next step is to actually figure out what your prayers are. Because the universe is kind of like likes to work with consent. Like the universe isn't going to be like, you, Chrissy, I'm gonna smash some awakening on your head right now. I'm gonna wake
yeah,
you up.
right.
No, like the universe is actually very like sensitive organism, and it's waiting for you to send up that prayer that you want to be taught or you want to find a path.
Yeah,
It wants you to make that prayer. So when you're out there in nature and you're feeling quiet, it's really good to see what your prayer is and what it would sound like. And the Buddhist prayer, it actually didn't start with "I want to wake up." The Buddhist prayer is actually he didn't want to suffer. He didn't
wow,
want to suffer. All of Buddhism is actually built on that prayer. I don't want to suffer anymore.
interesting.
Yeah, and so find what your prayer is and get really articulate about it And then what happens is, because the universe is such a great order taker, what you are praying for will start to come to you. And it might be a teacher, it might be a book, it might be a community, it might be a meditation practice. But send out that prayer and then see what comes to you in response.
Yeah. And is that what it, what you just described, is that what it means to really be your own spiritual teacher?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I would really like to see a flattening of the hierarchies of power as they pertain to spiritual transmissions. So I think like I have some really lovely apprentices and students, and I don't think that I'm their teacher. I think I am their shepherdess,
Yeah.
holding their gifts in refuge, like a greenhouse, until they just have strong roots and they just keep growing. So I just look at the teacher is really the greenhouse and the refuge of your gifts. So if you do find a teacher, make sure that that's what that teacher feels like. That teacher is not taking any pride or any ownership or any authority in your spiritual evolution.
Yeah.
You are the sovereign teacher, and everyone else there is there to be a friend along the way.
I love that. That's really beautiful. So let me ask you one more question, because we talked a little bit about technology and devices. How do we be our own spiritual teacher in a way in this world of where everything that we see is perfectionism? Social media, everybody really just wants to present as, oh, this is my life is perfect and I know everything and everything's great and I'm, talk about ego and removing that, right? It's like every post you see on social media, every photo, it's just perfectionism. I know it all. And we're being sold so much. And it's just like constant in our face. How do we combat that disease of perfectionism that we're being sold right now in
Mm.
today's world?
Yeah, it's hard. It's especially hard on social media. I sometimes I try to post things that are like a little bit more raw,
Yeah.
and sometimes I'm just posting like for fun, and like I had the most hilarious reaction to a post I did recently where I was just like hanging out in my bathroom and I was dancing, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna post this little dance move, and it was to a song in the background that was called "Where Is My Husband?"
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I put like a little blurb about like, hey, for those girls out there who are feeling a little bit heartbroken, crush it with this song.
Yeah.
Okay. People immediately read into that I broke up with my husband. Like, they were like worried about me. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're
Aw.
your husband. And I was like, no, I was just trying to put something out there that wasn't just pure toxic positivity.
Right.
So it can be really, really hard because
Yeah.
it's a very incalcitrant force field of perfectionism. That's what social media really is right now.
Yeah.
And I actually, because of my work, because I have a book coming out, I have to actually speak to social media.
Yeah.
And so it's a spiritual practice of mine, is how am I going to interact with the social media? And a lot of it is that practice is really learning to actually not care what other people think about you,
Yeah. Yeah.
and to really, really cultivate that. And then if you're going to put content out there, put out content that reflects that I don't care what you think about me.
Yeah.
I'm not here for your approval. I'm actually not here for you to think that I'm someone special or that I'm better than anything else. I'm here because I'm actually sharing something that's authentic to me.
Yeah.
And I think that can be our own force field, that we kind of push back into the perfectionist force field
Yeah.
with like a force field of authenticity. But, it's going to take an army of us doing that to really change the tone on a lot of these social media channels.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I feel the same way. Again, I have social media for the podcast, for my coaching practice. And, it's hard because I try to post authentically what I know, who I am, just being almost like a mirror. But it is very difficult to put up that attitude of, I don't really care what people think, because, there's a lot of judgment and it's difficult. But I like how you described it. And that actually really was helpful for me. So thank you, because I'm going to use that in my postings. I try to put out content that I think is useful, and I'm putting it out into the world, and I can't control how it lands on anyone. Hopefully it lands and people receive it with the intention that I have, is that I'm hopefully it's helping you, and it's landing, and you're receiving the message in the way it's meant to. But well, thank you for that. Well, tell my listeners, where can they find more information about you and your new book that's coming out?
You can go to thesylvia.com. It's Sylvia with the Y.
Okay.
And my book is called Soul Naked. It's going to be published as part of Deepak Chopra's book club in June of 2026.
Oh, awesome. That's so exciting. I'm so happy for you. I'll keep an eye out for that. That's amazing. Well, we will be sure to link your contact and socials in the show notes so everyone can find you. This was such a wonderful conversation. I really feel like I have learned so much, and I think I'm going to take a lot of these pointers that we talked about to start really creating some new habits. And this is a great time, right? It's the new year. I feel like it's a reset for a lot of people. And this is a great time. I know it is for me to really start implementing new daily habits. And I have several out of this conversation that I'm going to take and start implementing right away. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening. If you love this episode, be sure to let us know. Drop a comment, give us a like, follow the podcast, and you can find me at Suburban Warrior on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And we'll be back next week with another amazing Suburban Warrior here to share her story with you. Talk to you soon.